$500,000
For what?
for you to leave.
So that's what I was worth?
Lucia, no, let me finish. She pointed at the money. I stayed when every maid before me ran. I cleaned up after your sons when nobody else would touch them. I cooked for a family that barely remembered my name. I stayed when this house treated me like I was disposable. She stepped closer. And you couldn't even say thank you. You just put a price on my silence. Kim's jaw tightened. I am trying to protect you. Protect me? Lucia laughed once. It hurt more than crying. You think money makes this protection? You think $500,000 can erase everything? She picked up her suitcase. I am leaving. Stop. Lucia kept walking. Kim's voice hardened.
Stop.
Lucia, I said stop. She looked over her shoulder. Han Kwon appeared first. Where are you going? Away. Ron Kwon came running behind him. Away where? Somewhere I don't have to wonder what I'm worth every morning. Ha-on reached for her suitcase. Me carry it. Let go. No, Ha-on, you stayed for us. Lucia's expression cracked. Ron stepped in front of her. Then stay one more night, she shook her head. I can't. Both twins looked at each other, neither said anything, then they dropped to their knees. Lucia froze. Han looked up at her.
Please don't leave.
Ra-on swallowed. We'll chain. You shouldn't have to beg me. We don't care, Han said. Please. Lucia's tears finally escaped. For years, these two boys had been the reason every maid ran. Now they were begging the one woman who had survived them. Across the hallway, Kim watched. His anger disappeared, not because Lucia was leaving, because he finally understood something he had spent months refusing to admit. His sons loved her, and he did too. Before he could move, the mansion gates groaned open. A black convoy entered the compound. Kim turned. The first sedan stopped. The rear door opened. An elegant, silver-haired woman stepped out. Mrs. Kwon, the twins scrambled to their feet, but she wasn't looking at them. She was staring at the scene, her grandsons kneeling, begging a maid. Kim, what have you turned the reputable grandsons of this empire into? Han lowered his head. Grandmother. Ra-on followed. Welcome home. Mrs. Kwon looked at Lucia. Who is she? Nobody answered. Then the second sedan opened. A woman stepped out, elegant, Korean, impossibly composed. Kim Kwon stopped breathing for half a second. She looked directly at him.
We meet again, Mr. Kim.
Song Young. But nobody said her name, not yet. Kim's mother looked from Song to her son. Something old passed between them, something dangerous. Kim's voice returned. Lock the gates. Lucia turned sharply. What? Nobody enters, nobody leaves. You just told me to leave. Kim looked at her. I said nobody leaves. You don't get to change the rules because your mother arrived. The twins quietly picked up Lucia's suitcase. Give that back. Lucia, Ron said softly, just come inside. She glared at Kim. He said nothing. The boss was still the boss, even when everything around him was falling apart. Song walked into the mansion without asking permission. That was the first thing Lucia noticed. The second was worse. Song knew exactly where she was going. She didn't ask where the dining room was. She didn't look around. She walked straight toward it like she'd been there before. Kim noticed, so did Lucia, and so did Han. At dinner, Mrs. Kwon sat beside Kim. Song sat across the room. Kim reached toward his glass. Song spoke without looking up. You still touch your left shoulder when you're nervous. Kim's hand stopped. Lucia noticed. The twins noticed. Song finally looked at him. Some habits never change. Kim stared at her. How long are you staying? As long as you need me. Understood what that meant. Yet, Song turned toward Lucia. Your surname is Edam. Yes. Song's fingers stopped around her glass, only for a second. Interesting. Lucia frowned. Song smiled. Cooking is wonderful. Kim watched her. He didn't know why that surname had changed Song's expression. He didn't know why she already knew his old habits. And he didn't know why a woman who had disappeared from his life 20 years ago had suddenly returned. But Han noticed something else. Song had looked toward the security cameras 3 times during dinner. Ron noticed too. Neither brother said anything, not yet. That night, Han found his brother in the hallway. She asked where father's clinic is. Ron looked up. When? Before dinner. What did you tell her? Nothing. Ron nodded, then Han added quietly. She also asked which floor father's private room uses. Ron's expression changed. That's not normal. No, maybe she's just curious. Han shook his head. No, she's mapping the house. Days later, Mrs. Kwon entered Kim's study. You remember what she did for us? Kim didn't answer. She saved your life. I remember. She saved mine too. I know. Mrs. Kwon's voice hardened. And you promised to marry her. Kim looked away. That was 20 years ago. A promise doesn't become meaningless because your heart changed its mind. Mother, You owe Song Young. I owe her gratitude. No, Mrs. Kwon stepped closer. You owe her a promise. Silence. Then she said something that made Kim's stomach tighten. I hope you haven't developed feelings for that black maid. Kim didn't answer. His mother didn't need an answer. She saw it in his face. She turned and left. Kim remained alone. His eyes moved toward the window. Lucia was outside with the twins. Ron was laughing. Han was pretending not to. Lucia had flour on her cheek. Kim smiled before realizing he was smiling. The smile disappeared. He was already losing control. And Song had noticed. That evening, Song prepared an elaborate dinner for the twins. Imported ingredients, perfect presentation. Han tasted it. It's fine. Ron nodded. Very good. They both left. 5 minutes later, they walked straight into Lucia's kitchen. Lucia looked up. Hungry. Both nodded. Song watched from the doorway. Her smile remained. Her fingers tightened around the frame. She had spent years becoming a woman nobody could ignore. Yet 2 grown men she had once imagined controlling were choosing a young Nigerian woman over everything she prepared for them. That bothered her. But she didn't show it. Instead, she walked in. Teach me. Lucia looked confused. To cook, Song smiled. You don't have to. I want to. For the next 2 days, Song stayed beside Lucia. She asked about ingredients. She asked about Kim's favorite meals. She asked when the twins usually ate. She asked what made Kim relax. Lucia answered. She thought she was teaching a woman who wanted to become part of the family. Song was collecting information. One afternoon, Song asked the question that mattered. How do you make him laugh? Lucia looked toward the hallway. Who? Kim. Lucia shrugged. I don't make him laugh. But he does. It just happens. Song smiled. Are usually the dangerous things. Lucia laughed. She didn't understand. Song did. Kim Kwon had spent years making sure nobody mattered enough to threaten him. No wife, no visible weakness, no person he would trade an empire for until Lucia, and now someone was watching. One night, Kim found a photograph on his desk, Lucia walking through the mansion gates, taken from outside the walls. Underneath it were 2 words, beautiful weakness. Kim's expression hardened. Someone had found her. Someone had been watching his house, and worse. I knew exactly what she meant to him. He didn't tell Lucia, he didn't tell the twins. He simply made that decision. She had to leave. The very reason why 3 days later he handed her $500,000. And now she was trapped with him. Because if she leaves, she will be in danger. If she stays, more danger. Kim believed removing Lucia from the mansion would remove the weakness. He was wrong. Because outside the gates, a black car was always waiting. Nobody noticed it, except Song. She watched from an upstairs window. She saw Kim watching Lucia. She saw his hesitation. She saw the twins kneeling before the maid the other day. And she finally had what she needed, proof. Kim Kwon loved Lucia Edem. That night, however, something almost made him change his mind. He found Lucia crying quietly in the kitchen. An untouched plate sat in front of her. Why are you crying? She wiped her face. You keep refusing my food. Kim almost smiled. That's what you're crying about. It matters to me. It shouldn't. It does. Kim looked away. He had no defense against that answer. Bring it. Lucia blinked. What? Bring the food. She did. He ate. The twins joined them. Ron made a stupid joke. Han laughed despite himself. Lucia laughed too. Kim looked around the table. For 9 years the mansion had been silent. Tonight it felt alive. He watched Lucia smiling. And for a few seconds he forgot to be afraid. Then he remembered the photograph. His smile disappeared. He was falling, and someone had already discovered where to strike. Later that night, Kim found Lucia in the garden. She reached toward a flower. He caught her wrist. Wait, she turned. Kim brushed a strand of hair away from her face. Neither moved. Lucia's fingers closed around his wrist. Kim, he leaned closer. Their faces were inches apart then. A door slammed upstairs. They separated. Neither spoke. But from the second-floor window, Song had seen everything. She no longer needed proof. Kim Kwon had a weakness, and she knew exactly how to use it. She didn't attack Lucia. She became her friend. That was much more dangerous. The next morning, Song brought Lucia tea. You work too hard. Lucia smiled. Used to it. Song sat beside her. You deserve better. Lucia looked at her. Do I? Song smiled. Everyone deserves to be valued. Lucia didn't notice the irony. For the next several days, Song made herself indispensable. She comforted Lucia. She defended her when a staff member complained. She even told Kim's mother that Lucia deserved respect. And every time Lucia lowered her guard, Song learned something new. Which dish Kim loved, which foods he avoided, which nights he ate late, which kitchen entrance was rarely monitored, where the cameras were, which security officer changed shifts, and, most importantly, how Lucia prepared Kim's food. Song was no longer studying the family. She was preparing the murder. But one thing complicated her plan. Ron, he had begun watching her, and Song knew it. One evening, Ron found her standing near the kitchen. "You like watching people," he said. Song smiled. "Observant. There's a difference." "Is there?" Ron stared at her. "Don't hurt my family." The first time, Song's smile disappeared. "You should ask your father why so many people already tried." She walked away. Ron stood still. That sentence followed him all night. Then came the night that changed everything. Lucia prepared Kim's favorite meal. She placed the plate on the table. Kim sat down. Han checked his phone. Ron was reviewing medical notes. Song was nowhere in sight. Lucia stepped away. A few seconds later, Song entered the kitchen. She looked around, then moved toward the plate. Her hand hovered over it. She stopped. Footsteps sounded in the hallway. Song stepped away. A shadow crossed the doorway. She waited, then returned. A tiny amount of toxin disappeared into the food. She walked out. Nobody saw her, or so she thought. Kim lifted his fork. Took one bite. He smiled at something Ron said. Then his hand stopped. The fork fell. His glass slipped from his fingers. It shattered. Kim tried to stand. His legs failed. He crashed to the floor. "Father!" Ra-on was beside him instantly. "Move!" Han called security. Lucia screamed for help. Kim's fingers twitched, then went still. The mansion erupted. An ambulance arrived within minutes. Kim was rushed to the hospital. Lucia followed. Song followed too. But while everyone watched the stretcher, Song watched Lucia. And smiled. At the hospital, doctors ran test after test. Finally, Ron saw the toxicology report. His face changed. "Neurotoxin." Han stared at him. "What does that mean?" "It means someone poisoned him." Doctor continued. "It has disrupted his nervous system. His brain is sending signals his body can't properly execute." "Will he recover?" The doctor hesitated. "We don't know." Then came the question that changed Lucia's life. Who served his last meal? Every eye turned toward her. Lucia stepped backward. Nobody answered. "I didn't poison him." Security arrived. The handcuffs closed around her wrists. Han watched. His legal training screamed motive, access, opportunity. Lucia had been rejected, humiliated, paid to leave. Then Kim collapsed after eating food she served. It looked perfect. Ron saw something else, her face, fear, not guilt. At the police station, Lucia repeated the same sentence. "I didn't do it." Ha-on stood outside. Ron confronted him. "You believe she did it?" "I believe evidence." "No," Ron stepped closer. "You believe what the evidence wants you to believe." Ha-on stared at him. "Then find another suspect." Ra-on nodded. "I will." Next morning, the case reached court. The prosecution's story was painfully simple. Lucia had motive, she had access, she had served the meal, and Kim Kwon had collapsed minutes later. The judge looked at Lucia. "Do you understand what you're facing?" "Yes." "Life imprisonment." Lucia swallowed. "Yes." Then her knees gave way. She collapsed. The courtroom erupted. Doctors rushed forward. 20 minutes later, a physician returned. Pregnant. Silence swallowed the room. Han's face went pale. Ron couldn't move. Mrs. Kwon covered her mouth. Song's expression flickered. The judge looked at Lucia. "Whose child?" Lucia looked toward the empty seat reserved for Kim. She said nothing. The courtroom exploded with whispers. The judge granted her 5 days. 5 days to prove her innocence. 5 days to uncover who poisoned Kim. 5 days to save herself. If she failed, she would go to prison. And the child would be born behind a locked door. Before the story moves forward, make your guess. Who poisoned Kim Kwon? And why would someone want Lucia blamed for it? Remember your answer. Because the person responsible has already appeared. Back at the mansion, Lucia was placed under strict supervision. She was forbidden from entering Kim's private clinic. Han took control of the legal case. Ron took control of the medical investigation. And Song became Lucia's kindest companion. "You don't deserve this," Song said. Lucia stared at her. "Then why do you look so calm?" Song smiled. "Because panic doesn't solve anything." Lucia watched her leave. Something was wrong, she just couldn't prove it. Meanwhile, Ron reviewed the security footage again and again, then he found it. 11 seconds, Lucia left the plate, the camera went dark. 11 seconds later, it returned. Ron froze the frame, a shadow. Someone had entered the kitchen, but the face was missing. Someone had erased the most important part. Ron called Han. Someone touched the cameras. Ha-on arrived. Long, 11 seconds. Han studied the screen. That is enough time to poison someone. No, Ron pointed at the screen. It's enough time to make someone look guilty. Han went silent. Then he found something else. Evidence from the kitchen had been preserved too perfectly. The exact plate, the exact utensils, the exact photographs. Everything prosecutors needed had somehow survived. Someone hadn't simply taken advantage of the poisoning. Someone had prepared the case beforehand. Han looked at his brother. This was planned. Ron nodded. Then let's find the planner. That night, Ron tested his own dinner positive, the same toxin. He stared at the result, then quietly removed the plate. He didn't tell Han. He wanted to know who was watching. He left the poisoned food untouched. 5 minutes later, Song appeared in the doorway. She looked at the plate, then at Ron. Ron looked directly at her. Song smiled. He didn't. She walked away. Ron knew. The danger was inside the house. He began carrying his medical testing kit everywhere. He also started digging into the family's past. An old document appeared, Nigeria, a safe passage, a date, the year his grandfather died in an ambush. Ron took it to Mrs. Kwon. Who helped you escape? Her face changed. Where did you find me? She closed the file. That past is buried. Then why is someone digging it up now? Mrs. Kwon looked toward the door. Because some graves are never finished. Ron knew she was afraid. Meanwhile, Song sat beside Kim's hospital bed. She held his hand. You promised me. Kim's eyes fluttered. Song leaned closer. I waited for you. His fingers moved slightly. Song smiled. But she didn't know whether he recognized her. Ron watched from the doorway. The way Song spoke to his father wasn't the way an old acquaintance spoke. It was the way someone spoke to a man who owed her something. Ron returned to the records. He found an old photograph. A younger Kim. A younger Mrs. Kwon. A Nigerian man. And a little girl, 7 years old, standing beside her father. Ron stared at the girl, then at Lucia's photograph, then at the name Edem. His heart began racing. He needed proof. Meanwhile, Han attacked the financial records. He discovered something worse. Song's father had secretly held a major stake in the Kwon Empire for decades, a stake that could become enormously valuable if the Kwon bloodline collapsed. Han confronted Song. What did you do? Song smiled. You're asking the right question too late. You poisoned my father. She stepped closer. Your father made a promise. That doesn't answer me. Ask him what happened before your grandfather died. Han's expression hardened. You're threatening me? No, Song smiled. Reminding you that your family has buried more bodies than you know. She walked away. That was enough. The brothers stopped working separately. They sat together. No pride, no argument. They put everything on the table, the toxin. The 11-second gap, Song's questions, the hidden financial stake. The Nigerian records, the old photograph. Han looked at his brother. This isn't just about Lucia. Ron nodded. It's about father. What he inherited. They built a trap, a hidden camera, a controlled meal, a fake medical schedule. They wanted Song to believe Ron would be alone in the kitchen. At midnight, she entered. She checked the hallway, opened a cabinet, looked at the food, then reached toward the container. The camera recorded her silhouette. Ron watched from another room. Song suddenly stopped. She looked directly toward the hidden camera, then smiled. She left. The footage captured her body, but not her face. Han cursed. Not enough. Ron shook his head. She knows we're watching. Then she's going to change tactics. She did. The next morning, Lucia asked to speak to Ron. He sat beside her. What is it? She looked down. The baby is Kim's. Ron said nothing. I didn't tell the court because I was scared. Of what? That they'd say I trapped him. She wiped her eyes. That I wanted his money. Ron shook his head. You don't need to prove your child deserves to exist. Lucia cried. Then she told him something else. Kim tried to send me away because someone photographed me. Ron froze. What photograph? He wouldn't tell me. He was protecting you. Lucia nodded, and he failed. Ron looked toward the window. No, he stood. May have failed to protect you from the trap. Looked back at her. But he gave us the reason the trap exists. Lucia didn't understand. Ron did. Kim wasn't trying to get rid of Lucia because he stopped loving her. He was trying to remove the target from her back, and whoever had been watching had anticipated it. The final day arrived, the courtroom filled. Lucia stood before the judge. Song sat calmly behind the prosecution. Han stood beside Ron. The judge opened the file. Lucia Edem, the evidence before this court. Your Honor. Ron stepped forward. Song's eyes narrowed. I have evidence. The judge allowed him to continue. Ron played the security footage. The kitchen, the timestamp, the silhouette. Then he produced the toxicology report from his own poisoned plate. The same toxin was placed in food meant for me. Looked at Song. That proves someone else inside this house had access to it. Song smiled. It proves nothing about me. Han stepped forward. Then let's talk about motive. Place the shareholder documents on the desk. Your father owns a hidden stake in the Kwon Empire. Song's smile disappeared. If Kim Kwon dies without a legitimate successor, your family's position becomes stronger. Song remained silent. Han continued. You didn't just poison him. You prepared the evidence against Lucia before the poisoning happened. Song looked at him. Can you prove that? Han hesitated. For 1 second, the room believed she might walk free. Then Ron reached into a folder. One more thing. Song's face changed. Ron placed the Nigerian document beside the toxicology report. This toxin was connected to the attack that killed our grandfather. Mrs. Kwon stood. Her hands trembled. She looked at Song. You, Song's calm finally cracked. You remember. Mrs. Kwon whispered. How could I forget? Song looked toward Kim's empty seat. I saved him once. Voice shook. And he promised me a life. Ha-on stared at her. You caused the ambush. Song's eyes hardened. I wanted the empire. Courtroom went silent. Father had everything planned. Kim's family only had to disappear. Roan looked at her. And Nigeria? Song turned toward Lucia. That was the part I never understood. Lucia's face tightened. Song stepped closer. Your father hid Kim and his mother. Lucia stopped breathing. The little girl who led them into that garden was you. Lucia shook her head. I was 7. You were. Song's voice lowered. You saved the man I later tried to destroy. Lucia turned toward Mrs. Kwon. The older woman was crying. That was your father, she whispered. Lucia's eyes filled. Father never told me. He protected the secret. Song stared at her. And 20 years later, you walked straight back into the same family. Her voice became bitter. You ruined everything twice. Security moved in. Song didn't resist, but before they took her, she looked at Lucia. You think Kim chose you? Lucia said nothing. Song smiled. Didn't. She looked toward Kim's empty seat. He chose his guilt. That was the last thing she said before security took her away. The charges against Lucia collapsed. The evidence against her was withdrawn. She walked out of the courtroom free. But Kim was still lying in a hospital bed. For days, Lucia sat beside him. She talked even when he couldn't answer. She told him about the twins, about the garden, about the baby, about the $500,000 still sitting untouched in a drawer. Then one morning, his finger moved. Lucia froze. Eyes opened. Slowly, he looked at her. Did you leave? Lucia laughed through tears. I tried. His lips moved. I know. You sent me away. I was afraid. Of me? No, he swallowed. Of what would happen if they knew you mattered? Lucia stared at him. You thought I was your weakness. Kim squeezed her fingers. I was wrong. His voice was weak. You didn't make me weak. Looked at her. You gave me something worth being strong for. Later, at the mansion garden, where Lucia usually hangs around to breathe in fresh air from nature, Ron and Han had returned from work famished and hungry. The catch is that none of them could lift an arm to cook. So they searched for Lucia. Luckily, they found her at the garden. They warmly bowed, showing respect to whom holds the key to their stomachs. Ron began stylishly. Did the snoring guide I gave you help? Lucia returned with a beaming smile. Of course, the snoring had stopped totally. Let's get the guide. Snoring is quietly stealing your sleep, relationships, and your confidence. Grab what's rightfully yours back from this snoring guide. When Snoring Steals the Night, via the link in the pinned comment, description, or scan the QR code on your screen right away. Ron said. Lucia responded by cutting through his words. Just tell me you are hungry. The trio laughed and nodded in slight embarrassment. Kim returned home. He still needed rehabilitation. He still moved slowly. But he was alive. Han became less suspicious. Ron became less argumentative, and both twins followed their father everywhere. Mrs. Kwon stopped pretending Lucia was merely a maid. She asked Lucia to sit at the family table, not serve it. Sit that mattered more than anyone said aloud. One evening, Lucia entered the dining room. Everyone was there. Kim looked up. She smiled. There is something I need to tell all of you. The twins stopped arguing. What? Lucia looked at Kim. We're going to need another chair. Ron understood first. His mouth opened. Han stood so quickly his chair nearly fell. You're serious? Lucia laughed. Mrs. Kwon covered her face. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Kim stared at Lucia. A baby, she nodded. The twins rushed around the table. Please let it be a girl, Han laughed. Why? Because we've waited our whole lives. Kim reached for Lucia's hand. This time he didn't let go. Upstairs, inside a drawer, the $500,000 remained untouched. Lucia never spent it. Not because she needed it, because it reminded her of the day Kim tried to buy his way out of loving her, and the day he finally learned something money could never teach him. Some people cannot be bought. Some debts cannot be paid. And some families don't become families because they share blood. They become families because when everything falls apart, they choose to stay. Kim Kwon once believed Lucia Edom was the weakness his enemies could use against him. He was wrong. She became the reason he finally had something worth fighting for, and in the same house where every maid once ran. A family was now waiting for the sound of a baby's first cry. If you had been Lucia, would you have forgiven Kim after everything he did to protect her? Think carefully. Then tell the truth. Because sometimes the person who hurts you most isn't the person who hates you. Sometimes. It's the person who loves you badly because they're terrified of losing you. And if this family has already earned a place in your heart, stay close. The next story may be even harder to walk away from.